The world that lost its god is nothing but delicious prey. Outer gods, the absolute beings who have created countless universes since the beginning of time. Itarim. The Itarim, scattered across various dimensions, noticed that the master of a distant dimension had disappeared and their eyes gleamed. They didn't care about the death of their brethren. All that mattered to them was the vast amount of mana remaining in that world. The masterless power belonged to whoever claimed it first. And so began the Outer Gods' War. The dimensional gap is connecting numerous universes. Tearing the hard wall with force, the apostles of Itarim poured out. But a single man stood before them. Sung Jinwoo, the Shadow Monarch, the greatest fragment of brilliant light, his entire body enveloped in black aura, opened his mouth. At that word, tens of millions of troops, composed of the Angels of Light and the Shadow Legion, raised their weapons. And so began the war. The invaders from outer space endlessly attacked no matter how many were killed. A tense battle where they couldn't let their guards down for even a moment continued for a long time. There's no end in sight. It's a miracle that we've held out this long. This war was always a losing battle for us, I agree. If it weren't for the Shadow Monarch, our defenses would have already fallen. The rulers, the six-winged angels, paid their respects to Sung Jinwoo. They were the fragments of brilliant light, originally born as apostles of God, the beings who realized the cruelty of their God and became God's slayers of their own volition. The cycle of war. A long time ago, God, who created this world, split the primordial light and darkness into 8 pieces each, creating the fragments of brilliant light and the monarchs. And from the moment they were born, they continued an endless war, killing each other according to their destined fate. Countless beings died in the war that lasted for eons, and that fate befell even the commanders of the war, the fragments of brilliant light and the monarchs. But their empty seats were eventually filled by others. The destruction of a monarch's spiritual body released its inherent primordial darkness. Similarly, the demise of a fragment of brilliant light freed its primordial light. These forces sought new hosts, giving rise to another monarch and fragment of brilliant light respectively, to maintain the balance of the war. But they realized the purpose behind it only after a very long time had passed. That it was all for the amusement of the cruel, absolute being who wanted the war to continue forever. But now that God was dead and the monarchs were all killed, they thought the long and arduous war was finally over, and peace had come. Only to be invaded by the outer gods who noticed God's absence. The apostles of Itarim are still being born, but our forces are stagnating. Since ancient times, the soldiers of heaven, led by the rulers, were born from the fruits of the world tree. But after God died, the world tree gradually stopped bearing fruit. Replenishing their forces was impossible. But there was one exception, the king who ruled over death, the Shadow Monarch. Only he and his legion were eternally immortal. The power of creation had disappeared, but death was eternal. As the rulers said, if it weren't for Sung Jinwoo's Shadow Legion, which continued to resurrect even after death, this war would have already ended with the absolute destruction of this world. My liege, we have a problem. Our rear defenses have fallen. Where? They targeted the area with the weakest magic power. Don't tell me it's Earth. I apologize. We focused our forces on the front lines, so the defenses in the rear were weak. Sung Jinwoo sighed. Earth, which had barely regained peace, was once again in danger. Gates will open on Earth again. The rulers murmured, watching Sung Jinwoo. The residents of the Chaos World once invaded Earth. The rulers, who were the main culprits behind that incident, hurriedly made excuses. But it's different from back then. Indeed, our goal was to help Earth grow and protect it from the monarchs. But the Atarim's goal is pure invasion. They're trying to destroy our weakest point to confuse us. My liege, we need to send troops to Earth. I forbid it! If we split our forces, the balance of power we've barely managed to maintain will collapse. That's exactly what the Atarim want. If we focus on defending the rear and the front lines fall, we'll ultimately lose the war. Sung Jinwoo finally made a decision as he listened to their fierce debate. Baru?
Oh, my king!
Marshal Baru reporting for duty. Go to Earth. Baru exclaimed, Kea, do you mean... Sung Jinwoo responded, yes, it's time to unseal Suho. Baru's eyes widened with anticipation. Come back as soon as possible. Your command is my will. Baru immediately turned into a ray of light and flew towards Earth. Sung Jinwoo silently watched him leave, and then his gaze turned back to the approaching enemies. His lips were firmly pressed together, his eyes blazed fiercely. Come, apostles of the outer gods. The war continued.